Hey,
Hey, Lee Camp, how are you, sir?
what's up, man? I was gonna say we got the audio working from the start, but I forgot you didn't have it working at the beginning.
No, I deliver. I got to have some kind of audio problem. I think I feel better when we have an audio problem. Just makes me feel like, this is
Yeah, well, you get the problem out of the way at the beginning, and then there won't be anymore. That's how that works.
exactly. It's like Occam's razor. I don't know what I'm talking about.
That's what America did with the Native Americans.
Yes, yes.
Got it out of the way at the beginning.
There you go. And now we've got.
If you just get past a little genocide, it's all clean sailing.
Just that little speed bump of horrific colonialism, then everything's a smoothies shop and a strip mall.
That's fun. Yeah, it's all fun and games. I had a question. Is the pew pew pew, is that for this show specific, or are you like a sound effects whore and that's you use it on other shows?
No, that is a specific set of software that I purchased at an alarmingly expensive rate just for government secrets. That is software that I got. Oh, Kate in the chat said good hair day for both of you. Thank you so much.
Whoa. Well, then in that case, I think when the t-shirts finally get made, they should say pew pew.
Yes, they should. They should. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Government Secrets, episode 20, with Lee Camp and Graham Elwood. Pew, 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 pew.
Born to be an American.
Exactly. Because I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
There's like a battle going on behind him. Yeah.
This is Government Secrets, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Graham Elwood and Lee Camp. That's both of my names, I guess. I've got 4 names.
Yep.
Lee, what are we gonna before we? I've got a Leaf update, but before we get into that, what do we want? What do we want to discuss? What are we going to discuss? What's on tap today?
I'd like to talk about trade deals and what they really mean and the secrets behind and underneath and inside trade deals. I think that'd be good. And then on the topical front, sometimes I go back in the history books. Sometimes we do topical. On the topical front, I want to discuss the news that the Pentagon has just announced they're not going to help the CIA with counterterrorism anymore, and how that's not true, but it also, there's a lot to that.
Okay. Well, speaking of amazing State Department follies, I want to do the government secret later in the show of the $12 billion that is sent in cash to Iraq in like 2005 or 6 or something like that. And that just kind of disappeared, just kind of floated out there. Spoiler alert. They didn't track it well.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to get into that when you hear with the details of that, as everybody here might get $600.
Right. The good news, they found the pallet of cash pallets, and they're sending you $600.
Okay, I think we should get into a Leaf update. Car accident, insurance company fraud. So
please tell me the answer turns out to involve duct tape. Leaf actually comes with a roll of duct tape.
Well, metaphorically, I am being held hostage by our insurance system. So here's the final call. I mean, I think we talked last week about, I found out, I can sell this electric battery for about $4,000. And then they come back and say, well, we'll pay you $3,750 less. I was like, you sons of bitches. And I'm like,
you could sell just the battery for $4,000. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So here's a piece of information for electric cars, but especially for the Nissan Leaf. So the Nissan Leaf has been one of the cars that's been, at least in the States, electric vehicle that's been around a while. So if the battery deteriorates over time. So there's people who really love their Nissan Leaf. They bought one, let's say they have a 2013 or whatever, but now the battery only gets like a 40, 50 mile range. So rather than spending the 20, 30 grand or whatever on the new Leaf, they can just swap out the battery. Like my car was getting about 110 miles off a fully charged battery, had a 110 mile range. So that's valuable to somebody. And I went online and researched this, and I sent all the comps basically of these $4,000 to $5,000 batteries being sold on eBay. And I sent that to the insurance person, and she was just like, yeah, but we're paying you for what your car was worth 5 minutes before the accident, is what that's their model. Right. And I was like, yeah, but you're going to sell this battery. I know you guys are going to do that once you buy the car. You're going to sell this battery for $4,000.
Right. You're like, I'll tell you what, I keep the battery, you get the car.
How about that? Yeah, exactly. And so like they have, and she's like, well, sir, and she's talking about all this stuff. And she's like, so if you remember a couple updates ago, she said, we can only give you this amount of money. And I said, I know you can give me more. No, I can't, sir, blah, blah, blah. And I said, nah, come on. I know you can give me more. And miraculously, she found an extra $500.
It was under her chair. She hadn't looked yet.
Well, what happened? She had a sandwich, Lee, and she put the plate of the sandwich down and forgot it was under. So I was like,
right.
Well, then maybe, is there anything under your like coaster for your drink? Cause maybe there's another $500 under that, or.
And she's like, there is, but in order to find out what it is, you'll have to stay on the phone for another 4 hours.
Another 4 hours, and then I'm going to send you a bunch of forms to fill out. So I was just like, and she said, well, I did get you that extra $500. She's really trying to give herself credit. And this is where I was like, being a comedian could maybe get you into trouble. So I just thought for a second, I was like, okay, I'm going to play nice right up to a point. Like I never was rude. I never yelled. I never raised my voice, but I said, yeah, that was so great. I remember when, and I used the royal we, I said, I remember when we thought there was no more money to get. And then you found that $500. Wasn't that great? You remember
that time? Remember it was about 7 phone calls ago. Remember that time we were hanging out, just having the best of time, and we found that extra money. Wasn't that great?
Wasn't that awesome? Remember when you said no, and then you said it was impossible, and then you found it anyway, which led me to believe there's probably more money for you to find. Remember that time? So I just was like, and she was like, yeah, I know, that was great. And I mean,
she's like, I've never had a better time with a claimant.
So, because I just wanted to. Because I was like, okay, I was clear. I'm not getting any more money. This battery thing, I'm not gonna win this. And I could try to sell the battery for more, but just now I'm adding more headaches to myself. So, but I just wanted to say, like, the reason I said that is it was my polite way of going, I just want you to know that I know you're full of shit. Like I just want you to know. I know you're full of shit. You work for an insurance company. I get it. You got to pay your bills, but you're protecting evil assholes. Okay. So just so we know, just so we both know.
Well, and like what you just said, like I realized at this point, I'm not really going to get much more money, and I'm just giving myself trouble, and I'm taking forever. And and that's the goal. The goal is to get you to that point where you're like, my life is too important to spend it on these fucking phone calls. Like,
yeah, it's really like, make it so problematic that he's just like, so I made one more call to my insurance company, and they're like, look, I didn't have gap insurance. They're like, even if you had it, it wouldn't do anything. There's nothing for us to fight for you for, and I was just like, okay. And then I talked to like a kind of a friend, financial advisor person who's like, Graham, you did your due diligence. You checked, you did all the research on the batteries and everything. Good for you. And just call it, be done with it. I'm like, yeah, I want to be done. So I call her back and I'm like, you know what? That's fine. I'll take the money, the extra 500 that you gave me. When do we get this done? And then this woman that's been sort of hard to track down and return phone calls immediately is like, yep, done deal. Here we go. This is going to call you up. I got a call from the fucking tow truck company like 5 minutes later. Like, done. I was like, oh, wow. Just Kind of like $500.
All of a sudden, she doesn't. Her hours aren't 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. They're a little longer than that. Like all of a sudden, she's right there.
Oh, so once you cleared off that desk where you found that $500, now you got all this time, I guess, on your hands to just deal with my calls. This is fantastic. So, and even then, and thankfully for this show and our listeners, I don't think this Leaf update is going to end because
there's a lot of listeners who are going, fuck.
They're like, God, just get rid of this.
Damn it.
I don't care. Tell us government secrets, not your stupid insurance thing. So then I had to sit a bill of sale thing. I had to get it notarized, whatever, like just more time out of my day yesterday. And I got an extended warranty through the dealer that was included in my whole car loan. So now I'm going to track down my refund for the next, whatever, 3 to 9 weeks. Because I call the warranty company and they're like, oh, that's through your dealer. And I call the dealer and he's like, well, let me talk to my boss. And then we got to call the credit union and the thing. And I'm just like, oh, you motherfuckers. So like, I'm supposed to get some money back. I should. The extra $500 over what I owe the bank, but included in the bank loan is this like $1,700 for the extended warranty, which is a 2-year extended warranty. Because
the dealer's like, oh, to get that, actually, you have to speak to this pneumatic drill for the next 3 hours. They're just paying the phone on some fucking machine.
Just like, so I'm like, oh man. So I turn the car over tomorrow and sign a bunch of papers. And then it's going to be, I'm going to like at least twice a week be calling going, so where's the money? When do I get the thing? And it's going to be because banks,
good times,
and car dealerships and insurance companies, I mean, they love giving you money. They just love it. They do it quickly. They just cut checks. So that's where I'm at with the Nissan Leaf.
Yep. I mean, I hope you learned a lesson from this, Graham. Don't park in that spot.
Here's the lesson I've learned.
I hope you learned.
I'm going to get one of these credit cards, like one of these business credit cards that gives you miles or points or whatever. That because a friend of mine had this. He got one of those cards that any car you rent, it's covered. And he like got in an accident and did nothing. Just like turn the car over. They're like, well, your Amex covers it. We don't even worry about it. And I'm just going to rent cars. I'm just done. I'm just going to rent cars. And
you said you had a car. You at least had this car for 2 months and you were like, that's it. Never again.
I'm done. I'm done with owning a car. I'm done with it. My car before that I leased. But I'm just going to rent cars. I don't give a shit. Because there's days I don't need a car. I don't care.
I haven't owned a car in, I don't know what it is, closer to 15 years. But
what?
Yeah. 12. Well, I was in New York City for 12. For the first probably 6, I had a car because I was touring a lot of colleges and I was driving to them. But then my college gigs largely dried up, and the ones I would go to, I would rent a car for or whatever. And then I moved to DC and haven't had one in DC.
So you just like rent a car when you go on the road, basically, and that's it?
Yeah, rent a car if I go on the road. Yeah, I mean, if I were to. If a large percentage of my career became touring club to club again, or college to college, then I'd need a car. But other than that, it's like, I fly to a city and I rent a car if I'm doing a show.
I'm done. Yeah, I'm out. I'm out with cars. I'm just going to rent them when I need them. I mean, I liked having an electric car, but I don't know. I'm either going to lease or rent. I'm never doing this again. Ever.
I support your decision. I think you're right. I think you've done right.
All right, Lee Camp, what's your first government secret?
Let's start off on this. What happened? I mean, I think this story is actually from today. They're even covering it in CNN. Have you heard of the CNN actually found this story? But hold on, I'm just pulling it up real quick. But it's interesting because at first you read it and the Pentagon planning to withdraw support for CIA counter-terror missions. And see, and at first you're like, well, that seems so odd. You'd think that Pentagon would do whatever the fuck the CIA wants. And then you're also like, if we break down the terminology, counterterror in the CIA means basically regime change. Right. Basically all the crazy shit they do, whether it's helping Israel assassinate a nuclear scientist in Iran or doing crazy shit in Venezuela. That's all go. They put that under the term counterterrorism.
Wow. Okay.
So basically, the Pentagon is going to be cutting or withdrawing all its support for the Pentagon, and
for the CIA. You're saying the Pentagon is going to cut support for the CIA?
Yeah, supporting CIA missions, and the reason is because Trump is unhappy. Trump is grumpy, and so. It's interesting because there's a lot going on.
You're a mean one, Mr. Trump.
There's a lot going on here. Trump, despite being a megalomaniacal, narcissistic disaster of an awful human being and a sociopath and all those things, and dropped more bombs even than Obama, so it's not like he's a peacenik. Trump has tried to do several things that the military, and we talked about many of them before, that the military-industrial complex has really not liked and really not been down with, such as create peace with North Korea, which he failed to do, but thanks to Pompeo and Bolton, but he was headed in that direction. Withdraw troops from Syria, from Germany, from Afghanistan. He's basically been thwarted in all those efforts. So now, in these last few weeks, before he's knocked out of office, he's kind of, he's swinging for the fences even more because it's a revenge thing for him now, and he does it because he wants to make his base happy. But the real reason now is just it's a form of vengeance for him. So he put in this moron Christopher Miller or whatever Christopher Miller at the head of defense, who's basically just they call him a Trump loyalist. Now, this is the mainstream media's way of saying corrupt is Trump loyalist. But does that mean he's any less corrupt than the Raytheon goon that Biden wants to put in at the top?
Oh my God. It's like I was watching Democracy Now! And they just said, oh, he's, Amy Goodman just says he's a first ever black man, and she's all proud of that. And oh, by the way, he was on Raytheon. I'm like, well, easy, Amy Goodman. Easy. Like, wait a minute, you're bearing the lead. That's what's awful about this whole system.
That you just nailed the difference now. So I think we've mentioned it before. Democracy Now! Has had this creep towards becoming, basically MSNBC or something. It's still better than those. It's still better than MSNBC and CNN stuff. But it's now the difference has become MSNBC just says black guy at the head of defense, and Democracy Now! Says black guy at the head of defense. By the way, Raytheon. That's the difference.
That's it. That's the best they've got. I'm like, no, your story should be massive conflict of interest in Joe Biden's pick for Secretary of Defense. Oh, by the way, he's black.
Yeah. By the way should be the black. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I don't even see color. So Trump has put in this guy who I'm sure he's a goon just like Trump is, fucking awful human being, sociopath, all those things. But he's not the type of sociopath that they prefer at the top of the Pentagon. He's sociopath team B instead of team A or whatever. And so he, Christopher Miller and whoever else, Trump, and Trump, have basically said, how can we get at the CIA? How can we go at the other entities of the deep state that I'm pissed off at? And one of the ways is to cut this, help that they give to CIA missions, air support, data, those kind of things. And they literally say in the article, so Trump just did this in the past few days, and they say in the article, Biden plans to reverse this. So for the mainstream media, if you were to see the way the mainstream media covers it, it is, isn't this awful? Isn't Trump hurting our ability for our country to defend ourselves? Isn't he hurting the structural integrity of this country? And yet the real story is, this is disgusting that these groups are all in bed with each other. They help each other do horrible things around the world. And the moment Biden gets back into office, he'll make sure to shore up those connections again. Like, that's the real story.
I get so excited about American democracy every time we do this show, Lee. I really, it's just like, and it's this, and this is, there's so many levels to how awful this is. The main like core of it is like, this is what the duopoly is tricking Americans into thinking that there's this drastic difference between the two parties. The only drastic distance is, well, this guy's kind of a horrible asshole in this way, but the new horrible asshole is going to be different in a horrible asshole way. So it's like, and again, as you said in CNN, there's never even a hint, a word of like, why is the CIA doing all this? Why we have been doing the global war on terror for 19, almost 20 years now. Like, there's never any like, why are we doing this? Why is this money being spent? Has it ever worked? Has the CIA regime change? All it's done has been one blowback, collateral damage, like domino effect that they didn't anticipate, or maybe they created or didn't care about after another. And again, whenever Trump, who is just a raving crazy jackass, does one thing that's like, oh, that's kind of good for anti-war, he gets the liberals and the Democrats attack him from the right. Like, he's not war enough. It's right. It's so maddening. And then, you know, when you texted me today saying you were going to cover this, I was like, you know, if this was in Common Dreams, I might be excited to read that headline. But the fact that it's in CNN means there's something evil hidden behind this. It's some horrible chess move or something. I don't know what.
Well, the reason it's in CNN is because they cover it in the reverse way. They say, look at the horror Trump's doing to the structure of America, as opposed to crazy man does something positive for peace.
What the title should be. Crazy man does something positive for peace. Like, yeah, it's and the thing is that so there's going to be like a month maybe where the CIA, the intelligence community, and the deep state don't have as much power. There's going to be just a month. Right. And it's going to come back in and go, back to business, fellas, you know?
Right. Yeah, and I think that, you know, there is, I would never say, you know, support, obviously it's too late anyway, Trump's lost, but I would never tell someone to support Trump because he's a disaster for the empire, and maybe that'll be good because the empire will get kind of rickety, but it has had that impact where, like, they have been less efficient at the horrors that they try to commit around the world because Trump doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, and he doesn't have like long time, bureaucrats that really know the system and know how to continue our fucking American Horror Story, to quote a title of a show, and so they've just bumbled around from fucking chaos to chaos. Now that also means that then, because of these types of things, Trump is like, yeah, go ahead and murder Iran's top general. What's the worst that could happen? I mean, so there's another, that's a double-edged sword. But
you guys do that, I'm going to send the Nimitz into the Gulf. We're going to have a great month. Like,
but I love the way that happened. It was apparently that the Trump asked for ways to basically get Iran. Right. And they came to him with three options, I think. I think it was three. And their goal is to basically, you give the president a crazy too harsh option, a too little option, and then a Goldilocks just right option. and they assume they can talk him into the Goldilocks option. But they walk into Trump and they're like, we could do this thing murdering the general in Iraq when we're not at war with Iran or Iraq. We could just drop a drone bomb, kill not only him, but kill other Iraqi officials. Now, that would be crazy. But then there's this great one that we could do. And he was like, yeah, do the one with the general. That sounds wonderful. And they were like, oh, shit.
Ooh. Yeah, it was so crazy, the whole timeline. Like, on November 25th, there was a story in the Hill that was like, is the Israelis have been alerted that America is going to do some kind of attack in Iran. And on the 27th, that scientist gets assassinated. And the Iranians are like, this is almost assuredly Israel. And then, like, the USS Nimitz was ordered. It was actually before the assassination. The Nimitz was ordered to be in position. It was like, here we go. We're ready to do it. And Trump.
Are you talking about the scientist or the general?
Well, the scientist was assassinated on the 27th, but the USS Nimitz battle group was sent towards the Gulf to be there. Yeah. So it was like.
So that's the recent one that just happened with the nuclear scientist, right?
Yes.
Yeah. With that one, I was talking about General Soleimani, whatever it was, a year ago. But with this latest one with the nuclear scientist, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think this is another kind of government secrets angle of what's going down this past week or whatever. There's been no sign that Iran is creating a nuclear bomb. That is completely Western manufactured horseshit. And yet Israel goes around killing these scientists. In this case, clearly because Netanyahu and Israel and Trump and Pompeo are all really hoping for war with Iran.
Oh, yeah.
In some form. They don't want a full-on like Iraq version, because Iran is far stronger than Iraq, and if America were to do that, then America would get dragged into something far more horrific than the Iraq War, but they do want some sort of escalation that will result in like horrific loss of life, because these war hawks like Pompeo and them, they're worried that Biden won't, be tough enough against Iran. But if you talk to like Iranians who really know the situation, they're like, Obama and Biden were not much better. I mean, They didn't assassinate the top general with a drone bomb, but there were several nuclear scientists killed with the approval of the U.S., probably by Israel. There were 4 during Obama's time.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is I think it's why the deep state and the military industrial complex and Wall Street and all of them are so actually happy about Biden, because he's going to go to that Obama era, just drone strike, never ending war, but keep people from Trump got too many people in the streets protesting. So he had to we need people to go back to sleep. And that's why you get this Raytheon general running the just like, I think
for those who don't know why we're calling him that, he's literally on the board of directors of Raytheon. He's
on the board of directors of Raytheon. It just shows you how awful our military industrial complex is. All of Biden's cabinet is just showing you it's going to be, stimulus for Wall Street and war and no Medicare for all. And this is an oil drilling and just, it's going to be.
And what's amazing is in your mainstream media, that type of thing, putting a fucking weapons contractor at the top of the Pentagon, at the top of the world's largest mass murder machine, that is not considered corruption. That is, I know. They're acting like this. Oh, great. He knows the biz. Like, they're acting like this is totally fine. Meanwhile, they are finally covering Hunter Biden's corruption. All of a sudden, you're allowed to talk about that. There's some new articles about his what he's been doing in China, and it's being called, corruption, and there's an investigation ongoing. And it's like, yeah, that's corruption. Also, putting a weapons contract at the top of the Pentagon, also corruption.
Yeah. And they don't even, I mean, that's the thing when it's so disappointing. Like, obviously CNN and them aren't going to do it, but when Amy Goodman just like breezes by that, you're like, wow. It just shows you that people have been so conditioned, and Raytheon, buys ad time on the big networks. So that's why that happens. And then when they bring in their, military expert or intelligence expert, it's always some military person, ex-military, that's now works with Raytheon or Boeing or Northrop Grumman or whatever. That's their expert when they bring in, and anytime they talk about Iran or North Korea or whatever, there's never how do we avoid war? It's always like, well, this is how the war will go down. It's either this kind of war or that kind of war. Those are the options. It's never, no war is never an option on there because that's bad for business.
Right. And I mentioned the military bringing 3 choices. Let me tell you, none of those choices are peace.
None of them.
None of them are ever peace.
Ever. That's not even a consideration. It's never like, how do we broker peace? It's never even, it's just this war, this blowing up, the big thing, the big hammer, the SEAL team or the drone,
Like putting an ex-general and an ex-weapons contractor board of directors at the top of the largest military in the world, there is no way that peace can happen. Peace is unacceptable and cannot happen because it's like taking a fish that has been in water its whole life and being like, you're going to be the captain of our track team. And all right, go. Start running. And it's like, I don't fucking do running. I don't even know what running is. What the fuck are you talking about? That's like putting an ex-general, ex-weapons contractor at the top of the Pentagon and saying, create peace.
Wasn't this a Don Knotts movie? I think.
Yeah, I might have stolen that from a Don Knotts movie. You might be right.
The one of them is their limpet, runs a track team for the military or something. Anyway, one of those Disney movies back in the 70s. I don't remember. Herbie the Love Bug.
It sounds more like the other Knotts. What's his name? Don. Who was in Andy Griffith show? Oh, is that Don Knotts?
Yeah.
Oh, it is Don Knotts. Okay.
I think there's only one Don Knotts. I don't think there's like a family of Knottses out there. Like the Bridges, like Bo Bridges and Jeff Bridges. I think there's the Baldwins or something.
It's actually how the Nazi Party got started. It was a family.
There's Don Knotts. There's William. There's Sandy Knotts. There's all these Knotts. All right. Well, is there more? Do we move to another Gov't?
Well, I think on that fish analogy, we need to move on.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gov't Secrets, segment number 2. So I want to, I'll do a screen share here for the people watching on the video, but also, folks, please hit the like button. And if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, give Government Secrets a great review, share it on your social media.
And actually, I'm glad you said that because we're actually canceling the show if we don't get 20 more reviews.
Yes.
We had a long meeting about it. Unfortunately, this will be the last one unless we get those reviews. Then we'll consider coming back.
We're going to turn it over to Linda Knotts. All right, let me bring up this article real quick. So
that's the wait music. Actually, if you could just play the wait music from your insurance calls. So.
Ding, ding, boom, we're gonna fuck you. Boom, 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 boom.
This is actually, I should have said this before the screen share, but this is actually a great government secret. I promise you that the fucking hold music they play from all of these businesses, the scratchy kind of instrumental, but it's like sounds like it's being played from a cassette that's being chewed on by a cat. Like that shit is not, it's not scratchy by accident. They have recorded scratchy music and they have played that shit because they know people can't handle scratchy music. There's no way in 2020 they can't play clear fucking music on those fucking phones. It's impossible.
They did a study, I'm sure, that says cat cassette music drives people insane, and they'll just settle this claim and walk away.
Because they play it as if we all assume like, oh, it's just scratchy because, it's got to go through the phone lines. No, it's just in 1982. The phone lines are not scratchy anymore. They record scratchy music.
Maybe there's a squirrel chewing on the phone line. I don't know what's going on. All right, well, here's government secret segment number 2. How the U.S. sent $12 billion in cash to Iraq and watched it vanish. This was actually in The Guardian of February 7th, 2007.
You notice, I will tell you, anytime you look up a Guardian article and you're like, this is a really great article in The Guardian, I guarantee you it's before 2017.
Yes. This is back when The Guardian did really dig deep, hard-hitting stuff. They were really critical of all of the misuses and misappropriations, and during the Iraq and Afghanistan war, they did a great job.
They would go at the oil companies. They're the ones that covered the study that showed the countries are Western countries are 90% more likely to get involved in civil wars if there's oil involved. Yeah.
Yep. So here's a photo of some fine guy just with a gun and a pallet of $100 bills.
That's a photo home to his kids.
Yeah. Hey, kids, look at me.
Look at daddy.
Just gutting this country. The U.S. flew nearly $12 billion in shrink-wrapped $100 bills into Iraq, then distributed the cash with no proper control over who was receiving it and how it was being spent.
Yeah, this is hard for people to believe. This is literal. This is not ones and zeros on a computer screen. This is literal shrink-wrapped billions of dollars, tons of money. I spoke to a soldier who was in charge of guarding this shit, and he watched people walk around and pass bundles of money in that shrink-wrapped money like it was a football. They were playing around with it and shit.
Yeah, it was a joke. And first of all, bundles of money with no paper trail to record it. No one's going to steal it. No one's going to walk by and go, I'm just going to grab a stack for myself. Come on. The
U.S. military is known for their ethics, so I don't think there's anything to worry about.
So this is the staggering scale of the biggest transfer of cash in the history of the Federal Reserve. Okay, this is 2007. Now this is nothing. I mean, this is way before the CARES Act.
Right.
Cash. They put $12 billion in bills into circulation in Iraq. And that's the other thing. And I've read so many stories about this. They did it in Afghanistan. The global war on terror, they just dumped money into whatever, and they didn't track it. It'd be one thing if they said, all right, we're sending this money there, but it needs to make sure it's going to fix a school or whatever, or a road. Okay, great. They just sent it. And it's insane to me. It's insane. And yet these assholes today are oh, I don't know if we should keep people's unemployment benefits going, and you're going to have to pay back these small business loans. Oh, really? Tom Brady got $960,000 and he bought a yacht with it. Go fuck yourselves.
And we don't have the $300 million that it would take to fix the lead pipes in Flint. $300 million versus $12 billion.
We can't seem to figure that out. We can't seem to figure out how to fix the water in Flint. It's been 5 years now. We can't figure that. We're 6 years now. We can't figure that out, but we can send pallets of cash and just I don't know where it went. It's insane. It's literally like the old story, the old joke, the guy comes running out of the casino and sees a guy in a limousine. Like Letterman used to always tell this joke and go, oh my God, Mr. Rich Person in the limousine, I just found out my wife needs surgery and I don't have the money. I need $10,000 so she can get surgery. She's going to die. And the rich guy goes, well, I just saw you run out of the casino. How do I know you're not going to go back in there and gamble it? And he goes, oh, I got gambling money. It's that old joke. It's we don't have money. There's tent cities. And this is right before the economic collapse, by the way. This is a year or so before this is a year and a half before the economic collapse. The economic collapse was September of 2008. This is February of 2007. In the year after the invasion of Iraq in 2000.
That's when it was covered. This is from, it happened in what, 2003, 4, something like that?
Yeah, in there.
Yeah.
Nearly 281 million notes weighing 363 tons were sent from New York to Baghdad for disbursement to Iraqi ministries and U.S. contractors using C-130 planes. The deliveries took place once or twice a month, and the biggest of the two of 2.4 billion on June 22nd in 2004, 6 days before the handover. It's just unbelievable.
And like, some of it was obviously just stolen, but from people. But I would imagine a lot of it was used for bribes for these, whatever we call them, warlords, or, just various unsavory types in Iraq, who we were basically like handing the country over, just saying, don't go against us, and we'll continue the deliveries of shrink-wrapped cash to your doorstep. So I would imagine a lot of it went to that.
Absolutely. And here's one CPA official described an environment awash in $100 bills. So just like it's
well, and you know what else that is fucking infuriating is, think about, even if you take it away from Flint and you say just out over there, just in Iraq, soldiers were buying their own protective gear because they couldn't get fucking, the Kevlar and stuff to cover their full body and shit. They would have family members have like GoFundMe to send them fucking protective gear so they could walk around the streets of a country we shouldn't even fucking be in and not get killed. I mean, how disgusting is that our fucking leaders will send kids to be blown up, won't pay for them to be protected, and then just fucking shrink wrap cash. They have it. Oh yeah, we got that.
Well, the thing to add to that insanity, again, they can just drop shrink wrap cash all over the place. And then the soldier who didn't have the body armor or whatever comes back and goes to the VA, and some VAs took care of people. Some didn't. I mean, there's just all these horror stories of VAs just not taking care of soldiers. I mean, we still have 20 to 22 vets a day that commit suicide, but or
if they were taken care of, it would take, a year to get the fucking surgery they need, or
right. Yeah, there's always some like horrific waiting list kind of story. And one contractor received a $2 million payment in a duffel bag stuffed with shrink wrap bundles of currency. Auditors discovered that the key to the vault was kept in an unsecured backpack.
Isn't this more proof do people need that the U.S. empire is the mafia? There is no difference. These are duffel bags of cash.
I mean, literally, this is like when you hear like the John Gotti tapes. Like, it's like that. Or when they talked about the fall of the Soviet Union, like, oh, these Russian mob guys they were the worst. Really? Worse than the American military? Like,
yeah, you know how successful that propaganda has been? If you look up oligarch in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it says like a corrupt ruler, mostly Russia, or something, like specifically Russian. Basically, we've succeeded in making the definition of oligarch like specific to Russians. It's like, no, we have oligarchs.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos, I think, is what it should. It just should be a photo of Jeff Bezos in the dictionary.
Yeah.
They also found that $774,000 in cash had been stolen from one division's vault. Cash payments were made from the back of a pickup truck, and cash was stored in unguarded stacks of Iraqi ministry offices. One official was given $6.7 million in cash and ordered to spend it in 1 week before the interim Iraqi government took control of Iraqi funds. This is complete madness. Like, this is and the whole rest of the article just keeps saying more of that shit. I mean, just duffel bags and just like strip clubs. I mean, this just sounds like.
You know how whenever the UN or some of the US is trying to look like, we do wonderful things around the world, they always show the footage of like a US soldier handing boxes of food out to the people, the kids in Africa and the people in Africa, and they're all like, oh! I picture this as similar, except the crowd is just contractors and like warlords, and they're handing out pallets of shrink wrap cash, and they're like, oh, please, me.
I mean, you can't tell me there's not some I mean, so many people must have just gone, I'm taking a piece of this, these contractors, and I know so many contractors that just came back and they just made bankload of money, not to mention on top of this. I mean, this is just insane. This is just like this. If you heard another country doing this, you'd be like, wow, that country's nuts. They got no law and order in that country. Like,
yeah. And if you want to put, I mean, we can't really comprehend these numbers. They're just not. When you get into billions and and trillions, they're not numbers that honestly the human brain can seriously take in. If you make $40,000 a year to make $1 trillion, it would take you 25 million years. But to put 12 billion into some kind of perspective, the estimate is to give clean water to the world, which, clean water is the number one cause of dirty water is the number one cause of death around the world. Hundreds of thousands die from dirty water every year and diarrhea and such. So to give clean water to the world, saving hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of lives, they estimate it would take $10 billion.
Jesus.
Less than it went missing in Iraq.
Like, and if they said we spent $12 billion and used it the way they said it and rebuilt Iraq, and there's no war and it's a functioning democracy, and there's commercial flights and we can visit there, and Afghanistan is, women have more rights, and we can show all these schools were built and everything, like the Marshall Plan after World War II, like, okay, great. Not even close. And it's such a joke. Like, we could go on down the line of all of the problems in this country and the world that could have been fixed for that money. I mean, just like, how are we going to pay for Medicare for all? I don't know. Let's not waste 12 billion in guys going to strip clubs in Baghdad or whatever the hell happened. Just like, just unreal. They're just like, make it rain. Like, what did they do? Like,
listen, I am all for a stripper walking away a billionaire after.
Yes. If strippers got a taste of this, I'm all for it. If like working class, if like a bunch of like regular Iraqi people benefited from this, and they're like, hey man, I hate to say this, but that war was the best thing that ever happened because I made out like and my family's taken care of. If that happened, okay, but I doubt it. I doubt the Iraq. I mean, I'm sure some Iraqi officials high up got a bunch of money.
Oh yeah. Just not the average people. And you mentioned the schools. Building the schools. This. Another good solid government secret, and this was actually in the only investigative journalism the Washington Post has done over the past 15 years. The Afghanistan papers, which showed that we've been lied to about Afghanistan for decades, about what's going on there, about the idea that we're going to win, or that we're winning, or that things are getting better, or any of that shit. It's all been lies. But within that, it was multi-day reporting. Within that report was a story about ghost schools, where the various groups in Afghanistan say they're building schools, and we send them money, and then the military can go to the Congress and say, "Oh, look at the good we're doing with the money. We spent all this money on schools in Afghanistan." And if you actually investigate and go look for the schools, they don't exist. So there's a lot of ghost schools in Afghanistan right now.
It makes me so mad. Like, having been in Afghanistan and seeing there's a lot of Afghani kids that are orphans. You drive along this one highway. We drove between, I think, Bagram and Kabul, and there's this highway. It's like a 1.5 lane highway with no guardrails. And then you'd be driving and you just see like a rock painted red, and they'd go, "Oh, that's a minefield." And there'd be kids along the side of the road, and they'd make this X symbol. And I was like, what does that mean? They're like, "Oh, they want water." And I'm like, "Can we stop and give them something?" They're like, "No, but you can drop it out the window." And I remember literally these kids along the side of the road holding up the X sign, and we rolled down the window and dropped water bottles. And I looked behind the truck as we were speeding away, and the water bottles kind of scurrying around, and the kids come up from the side and grab the water up from the side of a minefield to grab plastic bottles of water. And we build ghost schools. Like, it offends me. I fed kids. We were in Jalalabad. We did a show there in 2006. I was on the road with a comedian friend of mine, Shamatosh, and this female soldier said, "You want to go, feed some kids," and took us to the edge of the base where the wire was. And again, these and there was a little Afghan army base, and we like talked to these Afghan guys as best we could, and they gave us tea or whatever. And then along the side, there was a downed MiG that was like rusted out from the war with the Russians in the 80s. And these kids ran along the side of this minefield, and then we fed them through razor wire, just like, granola bars and water and shit like that.
That's crazy.
And there's also a high level of like raping these children because they're living on the streets.
Yeah.
And we wasted the money so that contractors can make, like, fuck this empire. Like, what the fuck? Like, America, we're awful. We're awful. Every American wake up and go, I live in a horrific empire and I need to do something to change it, because it is just awful. Like, we could have fixed that. We could have been like, oh, we got the Taliban and we did the right thing. We did all the things we think we are as Americans, or the things that we did in World War II. That's our only moment where we're like, yay, we did the right thing. And even then it's just maddening. And then I don't know, just drive down any street in any major city in America today and see all the tent cities.
Yeah. Yeah.
But first ever black Raytheon guy, General. All right. Do we got time for one more Gov't, or is that it?
Yeah, we can squeeze one in here. I'm glad we redeemed that sadness with the first black head of the Pentagon.
Yeah, that's such progress. The diversity of the ruling class. We don't have a diversity of ideologies in there, but
no, same ideology, but different skin color. So
it's so great. And the people of the Middle East are going to be so excited they're getting bombed by the first ever black Secretary of Defense. I mean, and the first ever black woman VP. I mean, like,
I've heard his posters are flying off the shelves.
Oh, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Government Secrets final segment.
So I just wanted to talk generally about trade deals, which sound boring, and they sound like there's some bad things in trade deals here or there, but it's not really a government secret. But the government secret is like the entire point of trade deals. Honestly, in a large way, the reason they exist is, and there's NAFTA, this is TPP, which we didn't sign on to, but it was basically written and negotiated by Obama and his and corporate lawyers. So it was during Obama that it was negotiated. And I promise you, and no one is talking about this, Biden will sign back on to TPP in the first fucking week of his administration.
Oh, the minute his hand comes off the Bible, he's going to fucking he's going to, I solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution. Give me a pen, and he's going to fucking do it right there.
Well, yeah, knowing his mental state, he'll probably sign the Bible, and they'll be like, no, that's wrong. And then
Joe, it's not a sandwich.
So I didn't mean to sign the Bible. I thought it was a sandwich. So the TPP, which now has a new name, but is essentially the same. The 12 countries signed on to it without us, and now they're just basically waiting for us. But the entire point of all of these trade deals, any real trade deal we're involved in, we're also for a while going to get involved in TTIP and with the EU, and now that's kind of on hold for various reasons, including Brexit. But the whole reason is for corporations, and Chomsky has talked about this, for corporations to subvert the risk, quote unquote, risk of democracy. It is to get around democracy. That is why trade deals exist, because corporations don't want to have to deal with the fact that the people might want something corporations don't want. Now, they've largely subverted democracy in America by having only two parties, both of which are corporate parties. So therefore, they don't have much risk from that democracy. But they fear internationally that, let's say they have a trade deal with, France, and then the French vote in somebody who's not owned by the corporate state, who's closer to a Bernie Sanders or Jeremy Corbyn. And all of a sudden that guy says, hey, you've been raping and pillaging our country. I'm not going to be a part of this trade deal, the deal we've agreed to. But but largely you can't. These trade deals are binding for a long period of time. Largely, Congress has to sign off on them. But if you get something passed like fast track, which Obama forced through, then Congress is not allowed to change a word of the trade deals. They have to just agree or disagree, which they're always going to agree because they are for the business interests as well. So if they can't change the details of the trade deal, then it will just have to be passed as is. And these things are written by corporate lawyers. They're written by lobbyists and corporate lawyers, as was TPP. They're incredibly secretive, as was TPP. And the only reason we're not in TPP is because Trump, having no idea what it was, there was so much activism and so much information that got out there online. WikiLeaks published chapters of it. There were activists getting involved, and it got pro-Trump voters to make Trump aware that they didn't want to be part of TPP, and so he did not sign on to it. Day one or whatever, he basically signed that we were not going to be a part of it, and it was incredibly, lucky. He did it for his own self-interest. He didn't do it because he, cares about, gives a fuck about you or anybody except himself. But it was because the voter activist Trump voters had become aware of how bad it was for workers, or would be for workers, and that's why trade deals exist, is to stop the risk of democracy.
It's the base thing about being an indie journalist, political comedian, and really starting to pay attention and doing this show is, isn't it great that everything you've ever were told or thought is a complete bag of lies? Just a complete, rotten, soiled, maggot-ridden, soulless bag of filthy lies built on a house of detestable cards. Like, isn't just
like cards made out of poop?
Just shit cards. It's a bag of lies, filthy, maggot-ridden bag of lies on a house of shit cards. Like that, like everything is lies. Like everything. Thanksgiving, we just had that. That's a lie holiday. It's a complete holiday of lies, and it's just like, there's always something at its core that's like, oh, that's fine. Oh, a trade deal. This is good for commerce. It's good for, Thanksgiving. Just get together and have a wonderful meal with your family and be thankful. No, it's about murdering and stealing land and fucking democracy in the ass and whatever else. It's just fucking so bad. Like,
right. And one of the things that was in the TPP, which I think they've succeeded. The other countries that signed on without America, I think, have succeeded in taking this out for now. But who knows what will happen in the coming weeks of the Biden administration. But it would have been, if Hillary had gotten in, it would have been signed immediately. And this is what it said. It said that if environmental regulations or something in a country get in the way of a corporation making profit, and they also do this with the World Trade Organization and stuff, but get in the way of a corporation making profit, then they can bring their complaint to just a 3-judge tribunal. And these judges are basically corporate judges. They are chosen by the countries that signed the deal in the beginning. So they put in their corporate judges. And these 3 corporate judges will decide whether the corporation should be allowed to get its profit. And so they're always going to side with the corporation. And so basically, this undoes any kind of water regulations a country might have, any kind of air regulations. It takes all of that out of the hands of the people, or even Congress, and puts it in the hands of a 3-judge corporate tribunal. So it just allows corporations to run roughshod over the sovereign right of any country. I mean, this just takes away sovereignty from any country who signs on to it.
And we've talked about this before. A 3 corporate judge tribunal is such ridiculous. Why? Like, I don't get these corporate guys. Like, they need to feel like they made everything legal. When in essence, I have more respect for like Genghis Khan, who's just like, I'm going to fucking take your land. I'm going to steal everything. I'm going to, like, rather than, well, we found a tribunal that says I should be the new imperial leader of all of China. I don't know. I guess that's what happened. Like these guys. And I picture this, I don't know, like the John Houseman's character in Rollerball in the 70s, where just the world had been broken up into corporations. And then they had this death sport to settle. This is how they settled disputes in that movie. I'm like, oh, that's what, like, it's all that stuff is happening. All those movies I watched in the 70s, Rollerball, Network, yeah. They're all just like, oh, this is, we're living it now. We're absolutely living it.
Yeah. It turns out that those writers had, they saw the writing on the wall and they were writing about it and everyone just thought it was fantasy or something.
And then weird, the corporations took over Hollywood in the 80s, so artists like that couldn't make movies anymore and get people thinking. Then it was just like, we got to make the blockbuster. Yeah, Sly Stallone is going to take his American flag and just fist it right in your mouth, which is an exciting movie. Flag fist.
You should be the new movie guy voice. I really think you should.
I'm so excited for that. Coming this summer, it's an all new Flag Fist 2, The Reckoning.
Flag Fist 2.
You just see this flag covered fist, just, yeah, take that, world. And there's no plot. There's just shit blowing up and flags and a set of boobs comes on. And then there's the car smashes and a rocket. And then
I'm pretty sure Americans would go see anything where the subtitle was "Take That World." I think it doesn't matter what it is.
Flag Fist 2, Take That World.
It could be like visually, it could be like a little thing that just shows floating doilies with cats knitted into them, and as long as it goes "Take That World," people would still go to see it.
And then you're like, USA. Oh, God. We live in a death cult.
Yeah, we do.
Well, America is a death cult.
Yeah.
And when you call out, like anybody who's in a cult, when you say this is a fucking cult, you get ostracized and they prevent you from leaving.
Yeah, they fucking hate it. They flip out. Yeah.
Well, I think that's all of our government secrets, right? Is that the end of the episode? Government secrets. Now time for plugs.
Let's fist those plugs in there.
Fist flag 3, the plugging.
Let's see. I'm going to start doing Rockfin premium stuff. So that'll be at rockfin.com/LeeCamp. And then I'm as most people know, I have a show called Redacted Tonight. We actually just did an interview. This could have been a government secret of its own, but we just did an interview with Tara Reid. Wow. I assume you talked about that on your show, probably. Joe Biden's accuser. And I did like a full half hour with her. Everybody can check it out at youtube.com/redacted tonight.
Good for you, man.
Yeah. She's got a book coming out with more details of everything. And yeah, she, I defy someone I challenge someone to listen to the full half hour and think she's not telling the truth, about being sexually assaulted by Joe Biden. Of course, Donald Trump also sexual predator. But yep. Believing one does not mean the other is not. Just did that, and then everything's at LeeCamp.com. Probably the easiest place to follow my shit. But I just highly recommend everybody share government secrets and talk about it and tell your friends that this is the shit. And anytime you're in like a long car ride, you just fucking throw on the podcast, listen to the ones you missed,
Yeah. Share this out. Share government secrets out on all that's, look, we're only 20 episodes in, which is awesome. And all that's the downloads, the likes, the shares, the positive reviews, all those little things that don't take a lot of time really help get the show going. Cause when things open up next summer, hopefully, or whatever, we can start doing live shows. Maybe we're at a place where we could do a Gov Seeks live, buddy. What do you think?
We would have some big live shows, but like I said, only if we get 20 more reviews, because otherwise it's over.
Yeah, we're shutting it all down.
Shutting it down. Turn it off. Turn off the lights, which is not. I have to hire 2 guys to turn off these lights. They're pretty big. Yeah.
Well, you can watch what I do, the Political Vigilante. It's my YouTube show, a political commentary with a hint of sarcasm and vegan guns. And I go live like 4 or 5 days a week, and I drop 2 or 3 clips a day. Please subscribe to that channel. I too am also on Rockfin. So here's the thing. You can sign up for Rockfin for free. And if you want the premium for $10 a month, you get everybody's premium. You get Lee's, mine, Jimmy Dore, Whitney Webb, Kim Iverson, Ron Placone, the Convo Couch, Richard Medhurst, all these amazing people doing. So it's a great deal. It's blockchain and it's cryptocurrency, and it's a
So yeah, it makes sense because they seem to be treating content creators really well, and it's also makes a lot more sense than Patreon, where you're paying for everybody individually. You can pay for all of us with one $10 fee. Yeah,
one $10 fee. You're supporting all our shows, and they pay us with cryptocurrency. They don't censor us. There's no copyright issues. It's really a fantastic platform. So that's Government Secrets, everybody, and
it's been a pleasure, and I will see you next week, Graham.
You got it, my friend. Take care, Lee.
Thanks, man.
Government Secrets. End of episode. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button. Go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood and rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, where you can support the show. Also, I have a Bitcoin wallet, a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and an Ethereum wallet in the show notes. We're taking cryptocurrency. I have a Coinbase affiliation link. We're going to be getting on some other exchanges. So that's how you support the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. YouTube is unsubscribing us at an alarming rate. I have a PayPal button at grahamelwood.com. I even have a Venmo at Graham-Elwood. There's a lot of ways to support our show. We are getting crushed by YouTube. We've dipped under 73,000 subscribers because of YouTube. Thanks for supporting what we do.